check this out. Here's a story out of China. Xinhua news agency says, quote, a U.S. government bioweapons lab inspired by a Nazi bioweapons expert, i.e., Operation Paperclip and all that, with a mission to poison cattle in the Soviet Union, is believed to be the source of Lyme disease, said a university professor and a longtime investigative journalist in an interview with Xinhua, again, which is the news agency. So the professor is Carl Grossman. He has spent 5 decades investigating a U.S. government laboratory on Plum Island, known as the Plum Island Animal Disease Center, located about 1 mile off Long Island of New York. And Grossman says this laboratory is, quote, shrouded in secrecy. He says, I wish there would be transparency. He explains that the godfather of the Plum Island laboratory was a Nazi bioweapon expert named Erich Traub, T-R-A-U-B, who was brought to the United States after the Second World War. During World War II, this is from Grossman now, this is an exact quote from Grossman, Traub ran a Nazi secret biological warfare laboratory in the Baltic on an island called Reims with a mission to poison cattle in the Soviet Union. Now, folks, this is not at all surprising because we know the West has always wanted to destroy Russia and they've always used food as a weapon, right? It's just that now they're weaponizing the food supply against Americans, but they've also tried to do this against the Soviet Union. So Grossman continues, quote, Traub had some familiarity with the New York area before World War II. He was also involved in Nazi activities on Long Island. He thought he had a smart idea having an animal biological warfare lab like he had in the Baltic to be established on this little island, referring to Long Island. He goes on to explain there was a military base on the island at that time for over 50 years. It was called Fort Terry, T-E-R-R-Y. Thus, this notion was to make this laboratory do biological warfare. And he noted that the lab was then taken over by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA. And then Grossman exposed the U.S. government's admission about biological warfare work on Plum Island in 1971. Folks, this goes back a long ways. So he says the USDA decided to open Plum Island to reporters for a tour. And the PR person for the USDA admitted to Grossman, yes, quote, we do defensive biological warfare. Oh, defensive. Kind of like Fauci says, oh yeah, we're doing gain of function research, to stop a pandemic. In case somebody else might release something, we need gain of function research, to stop it. When we talk about the government attacking the food supply to try to kill off Americans, this is a method of warfare that they have used before. And they built the weapons to do this, and they have unleashed them on other countries in the past. So Grossman says that a 2007 report by the USGAO, that's the Government Accountability Office, exposed that some of the pathogens on Plum Island, quote, could also cause illness and death in humans. And then according to a 2005 report by the GAO, Plum Island experimented with pathogens that can cause fatal diseases in humans, including, get this, West Nile virus, Nipah virus, and Rift Valley fever. Plum Island is also suspected to start the global epidemic of Lyme disease, a disease transmitted through tick bites and can result in chronic suffering. But we know that Lyme disease is real. And we know that a lot of people, afflicted with these tick bites, their symptoms are so far beyond normal or natural, it's like a neurological bioweapon. In 2019, the story continues, the U.S. Congress passed an amendment requiring the Inspector General of the DOD to investigate the, quote, possible involvement of DOD biowarfare labs in the weaponization of Lyme disease in ticks and other insects. Those interviews, combined with access to Dr. Bergdorfer's lab files, suggest that he and other bioweapons specialists stuffed ticks with pathogens to cause severe disability, disease, even death to potential enemies. We need to come clean, says Grossman. The United States, I believe, on what is going on for all these years on Plum Island. And Fauci and the NIH and EcoHealth Alliance, right? And the gain of function, the weaponization, how EcoHealth Alliance had a grant proposal to DARPA. They said, hey, we want DARPA money so we can release this in the bat caves in China. They were trying to release a bioweapon in China. So just as the CIA drops bioweapons on other countries to overthrow those regimes and, replace those leaders or assassinate those leaders as they've done, they did all that to the US. Now,